Picture yourself in the early 1970s. You're sitting at a stoplight in your 17-foot-long Ford LTD station wagon, and then all of a sudden, this little lime green gem pulls up next to you. You have no idea what it is, but you know it's something special. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Datsun 240Z, and it's the car that put Datsun on the map here in America. Welcome to a brand new episode of Tested, brought to you by American Collectors Insurance. Tested is presented by American Collectors Insurance. When released in 1969, the Datsun 240Z introduced America to what Japanese automobile manufacturers were capable of. You see, prior to its release, Japanese manufacturers were known for economy cars and small pickup trucks. Datsun was selling the 510, which was essentially a poor man's BMW 2002, the 521 pickup truck, and the 1200 coupe, all great compact vehicles, but vehicles that weren't designed for American drivers. Think of it like this. Back then, the interstate system in the United States was growing rapidly. Americans were used to cars with understressed V8s that would cruise effortlessly at 75 miles an hour and eat up hundreds of miles of tarmac at a clip. Station wagons, well, they were still the main transport for families, and while the muscle car movement was still strong, smog regulations and high insurance premiums meant that, well, their time was coming to an end. By the early 1970s, performance enthusiasts were looking for other vehicles with an expanded appeal that weren't just fast in a straight line. BMW, they had the 2002, Porsche the 911, Ferrari had the 246 Dino, Chevy the Corvette, and Datsun, you guessed it, the 240Z. The 240Z was Datsun's first sports car that was not only designed for America, but more importantly, how Americans drove. Moreover, it changed the way Americans looked at Japanese cars as a whole and helped push the Japanese auto industry in the United States forward. At first glance, the 240Z is small, it's compact. You knew it was made for sporting drives. You know, up until then, we were treated in America to like the Camaro, and we had the Corvette, but they were big and they had big V8s in them. All of a sudden now, we got this little thing that was 2,400 pounds with a 2.4-liter inline six, and my God, did it change everything. And I'm talking everything. Here was a car that looked like nothing else on the road. Stare at the 240Z long enough, and you'll soon realize just how beautiful a car it really is. Flowing body lines combined with a long sloping hood, big windows, inset sport headlamps, and those tuck chrome bumpers mean that from stem to stern, the 240Z is absolutely stunning. On the surface, its design seems simple, but the more you look at it, the more complex it becomes. It's what a sports car should look like. It's not overdone, but instead purposeful, clean, and elegant.
My name is Don Pierce, and this is my 1972 240Z. My uncle bought a brand new one in 1972. It was one of the red-orange colors. Beautiful car. Learned how to drive a stick in it when I was 12. My father took me to a parking lot. It was a great car, and loved it. I just loved it. Just loved it. I wanted a 240Z back around 2015 because I wanted to hot rod one as well as restore it. Found this car then. Was able to acquire it in 2021. It had sat for probably 10 plus years, maybe 20 years. But it was no longer a project to hot rod, it was a restoration project. Towed it home and got to work, and here we are.
I always go back to my first experience as a kid. When I saw the Z for the first time, it was like nothing else on the road. Here was this compact, sleek, wonderful shape with these inset headlights, these small bumpers, and it just looked like something that I wanted to drive, even though I couldn't really comprehend what driving was at the time. I knew it stirred something in me that I wanted to know more as a child, and as soon as I actually, got old enough to understand them,
they became somewhat of a minor obsession. I mean, I actually had a 300ZX in 1984, which was kind of the final generation of this body style, of this actual shape. That went until 1989. And while it was a great car, it wasn't nearly as raw. It was more of a GT cruiser, and it was nice, but it just wasn't this. Driving this is a whole nother experience. It makes you go back to why you enjoy driving. Think of it as like the first gen Miata. When that came out, it reset what people thought a roadster should be. And that's really what the Z did for sports cars, and more importantly, it's what it did for Japanese automakers in the United States. It was built for them. It was built for American roads. You can take this out and you can cruise it at 80 miles an hour, and it doesn't care. It'll do it all day long. It just miles after miles of pure enjoyment. If you or anyone you know is looking for a 240Z or any other classic or collectible car, make sure to go to Hemmings.com. Check out our auction, our online classifieds, and of course our make offer pages, because I'm pretty sure I can guarantee that we have the car you want. So go to Hemmings.com right now and search for your car today. When it comes to handling, this is a great, well-balanced package. Your straight six up front, rear-wheel drive, fully independent suspension, and believe it or not, the car really does handle. I mean, we're going through some sweepers right here, and the car just sits. It's totally composed. You know, a lot of cars of this vintage, you'll throw into a corner like this, and trying to get them to hold the corner is kind of a pain in the ass. This isn't. It's very communicative towards the driver, but what's more important, I can have fun. You know, I could drop a gear, I could bring it into a corner and power out. And while some may say it's only 150 horsepower, what you have to realize is I can use 100% of it and it'll just give me smiles for days. This is a fabulous, fabulous, bare bones, raw, but yet wonderful sports car that you really need to look at. Under the hood is a 2.4 liter inline six that made 151 horsepower and 146 pound-feet of torque. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot of power, but when you think about a car that is between 23 and 2,400 pounds, it's plenty. So for instance, if I'm here and I drop a gear, the motor just revs right up to 7 grand, and it pulls and it pulls and it pulls. Okay, so we've got the hood open on the 240Z, and Don, tell us what we're looking at, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like one of the most accessible, easy to work on engines that I possibly have ever seen.
Yes, it's the 1972 Datsun inline 6-cylinder, overhead cam, 2 side draft Hitachi carburetors, which are very similar to the SU. We have power brakes, power brake booster, point type ignition with condenser.
Oh, it's still points.
Still points and condenser, Mike, yes.
Holy cow, okay.
Took the whole distributor apart, made it all work, beautiful.
Okay. Everything seems so, there are certain things that I love from like the accessible, like this pops open, right? Yeah. So that's your windshield wiper fluid,
and
right?
And clutch, yes sir.
And clutch. You have a little toggle here, yes, and it goes winter and summer. So explain that, because there's a little flap in there, but
it's really a drivability reason. In cold areas, you can block off the air coming in, at least slow it down, give the engine more time to warm up and get up to speed. In the summertime, you want to leave it open. You don't need that extra warmth to get the car going, and it's a real simple deal. It works very well.
There's a light on the other side, which is really kind of ingenious, right? It's got a retractable wire in the light, and you can pull the light out, light it up, and then take it and just move it all over the engine compartment, so you always have light if you need to see under the hood. If you are an individual with basic mechanical skills, and you know, you kind of trust yourself, it kind of feels like anybody can work on this.
It's a great car to work on, especially for somebody that's learning or just, you know, wants to keep it simple.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the Z up on the lift, and there are so many things that I want to point out about this car. Tiny little things. Things like this, a drain plug in the gas tank. You know, if you have to drain the fuel, perfect way to do it. Back here, everything is so simplistic yet so functional. Now, these control arms back here, they look like they're the same piece but just flipped over. Independent U-joints, fully independent suspension. It looks like in 20 minutes, 2 guys could have this entire subframe out. Unbelievable. As we're moving forward again, transmission right here. Everything is so accessible. Looking up through here, fully independent suspension in the front, McPherson struts, full steering rack, disc brakes, your alternator's right there. You want to change your oil, it's 2 seconds. Your starter is right here. From a maintenance perspective and for, prospective owners, I will tell you right now, this has got to be one of the easiest cars to work on I've ever seen. Now, the transmission is this beautiful little 4-speed. If you look at the gear shift knob, it's this tiny little wood knob, and it's fabulous. The shifts are very short throws, and very crisp. It's an absolute joy to drive, and I'm going to say it's probably one of the best old school gearboxes that I've ever driven. The other thing is the exhaust note. On this, the exhaust note is simply, oh, it's outstanding. I mean, it's a well-tuned straight 6 fed by dual carbs is an absolute joy. Don, the owner, has gone through great pains to keep it not only stock, but tune it to perfection. The car is marvelous. Now, steering-wise, there is no power steering. So you are going to feel everything. What's good about that is the car is telling me exactly what I want to know. It's very communicative for me as a driver. I know what the front wheels are doing, and the steering, once you get underway, is actually very light. So like power steering, people are like, oh my God, you have to have it. In this car, it doesn't really matter. It's totally fine. The other thing, the rack and pinion up front. I do movements like this and the car moves. Unlike some other cars out there of the era with these big power steering boxes that were just completely over assisted, this is a true sports car, and it feels that way. It's 100% analog, and it makes you, the driver, pay attention to what the hell you're doing behind the wheel, which is something like, let's face it, in 2024, the majority of the drivers are looking at their phone, looking at their screen, looking at everything else. Where in here, the only thing I want to do is just drive the damn thing faster and harder.
The cabin of the 240Z is the perfect example of where craftsmanship meets functionality, and where it's not just about aesthetics, but about the driving experience. High-back bucket seats, each with small vent holes, are supportive and comfortable. The 3-spoke, thin-rimmed steering wheel gives you a connection to the road, but it's the little touches that truly set this car apart. The toggle switches, the vent holes in the seats, the center-mounted triple cluster with the dual-mode gauges, and let's not overlook the intuitive cabin controls, ensuring that every aspect of your drive is within easy reach. And for those who appreciate practicality, this car delivers. The hatchback design means there's ample room for cargo, and the over-engineered reliability means you never have to worry about getting stuck if you just do simple maintenance. But perhaps the most surprising feature of all was the fact that I'm 6'4", 245 pounds, and I fit beautifully. This truly was a car that was designed for Americans.
With agreed value policies, the option of using the repair shop of your choice, and variable mileage plans, it is no wonder that American Collectors Insurance has a 5-star customer service rating nationwide. To explore all your insurance options, go to AmericanCollectors.com now to speak with one of their wonderful customer service representatives. Something that I didn't expect in this car is a safety feature that Datsun Nissan dove into on this car. If you get into the car and you get ready to drive and you put the car in gear, hear that buzzer? It's because my seatbelt's not on. I have to reach around, put my seatbelt on, now I can put the car in gear. Obviously I have just the lap belt on, but there are shoulder belts that are connected that come over, and you can plug that in as well. So, they really did a nice job about appointing this car. Now, no one is ever going to mistake the Z for a luxury car. It's not what it was meant to be. It was always meant to be a bare bones sports car. But the fact is, it's not that bare bones, right? You could actually get dealer installed air conditioning in this thing. And after that was done, you had a GT car / sports car that you could drive all over the place. Certain other features that I absolutely love. The door handle, which you would expect to be here, is right down here. It's by my leg. It's such a great thing because that's where your arm sits on the armrest. So you literally just reach down, click it open, and you're good to go. It's thinking like that is one of the reasons I love this car so much. But then something happened. Then you had the 260 came out, the 260Z, that was still pretty raw. After that, you had the 280, and then you had the 300s that came out in the 80s. And with each version, the car got bigger, it got fatter, it got a little more bloated. and it lost the essence of what the Z car originally was meant to be, which was a really fun, no-holds-barred sports car that was inexpensive, that you could take out and have a great time with. Think of it like this. Which Elvis do you want to see? Do you want to see the mid-70s Elvis that was all chubby-chubbed out in the sequins? Or do you want to see that 50s Elvis with the coiffed hair and the voice, getting all the chicks? That's the Elvis you want to see. That's what the 240 is when it comes to the Z line. It is a pure sports car that is magical, analog, fun to drive, and my God, Don, the owner, such a magical job with this car. Watch this video, learn from it, because this is what you want if you're ever looking for a 240, just like this. Because folks, I don't know if it gets better.